Welcome to the main library feature of the Poets in the Library series. My name is Mary Oishi. I'm the Poet Laureate of Albuquerque, and we have 4 featured poets today because I thought that by this time we would have a giant grand finale in the auditorium here at the main library. But since we're still having a little bit of a question as to whether it's safe to have giant crowds, we are still keeping the 4 featured poets, and they are marvelous, so I'm sure you're going to enjoy this feature very much, as well as all of the community poets to follow. The first featured poet is Mitch Reyes. Mitch Reyes lives just 2 blocks from the Albuquerque Public Library main branch. Recently retired from his life in construction, Mitch dedicates much of his time these days to creative work and family caregiving. He has been active in the Albuquerque poetry scene for more than 3 decades, both as poet and organizer. You can check out his website at mitchreyes.com. Please welcome Mitch Reyes.
Thank you, Mary, for putting all of this together. I'm very honored to be in this program with Maria and Damien and Andrea, all heroes of this city. These are from a series called Chalked. Oh, magnificent, glorious voice, right ringing from the bricks and sills, as Latasha takes the world to task, standing in the street, parting the waters of pedestrians and traffic. We, called out, speechless, can only dodge, crestfallen or callous, the blazing gaze and tongue of her avenging angel. No refuge under cloudless skies, but the armor of our routines, the shuddering of labels, and deep as bones the silence of our defense. The street slammed shut last summer, block after block locked up and bordered. Even the churches and shelters turn away any escape from the emptiness. No bodies on either side of the panhandle. Night of the shattered glass opens to a dawn of screeching burglar alarms, burning streets, debris, and ransacked goods strewn and smashed. Ever since, sidewalks swept, concrete barricades on every cross street, no movement in the shadows of the empty buildings. Only the corner market open after the purge of the non-essential. Rats and pigeons make themselves scarce. Even the wind goes hungry. A war is coming between the worlds. It will not be a war of real estate. Ray says it's all about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. We better be ready to fight, he tells me, if we want to leave something decent for our children. You got any kids, I ask. No, he says, never did have any. His middle hours belong to this library, where he reads the news and falls to sleep, warm when it's cold out, cool when it's hot, face down upon unconquered arms. On the library steps, I flipped through a book of early photography. There's an article about a farmhouse in Ohio where a flash of lightning permanently etched the image of a face into the glass of an upstairs window. These streets, to me, are like that. The shadow of a bird in flight brushes over a painted sky peeling off a wall. Effortlessly, I picture the face of a child, long departed, framed by a house. I can do it with any window, any face. The abandoned brewery stands tall beside the tracks where I walk between trains. Its stately proportions still hold a kernel of something new again, the way anything possible is contained in each moment. I wonder how to rekindle all I've neglected, how to transcend my immediate purpose. Another beer in an alley, a tap on a clouded window, a hand fingering the scars of a gouged brick wall as I bend to pocket a fallen nickel. This freedom, known only at the top and bottom, rises off the pavements. Even the most impervious of surfaces is seeped in the residue of each solitary passing. This hulking ruin holds for me something more than a flock of pigeons. Everywhere I look, I see throngs. I hear laughter. Every day, I relearn this world, pretend it's mine. My years, my crowd, my relevance are in decline. I'll make some noise on my way out. I believe what I want. In my head, anything is possible. Even the dead live on. My virtual and actual are interchangeable. My prophecies are self-fulfilling. My channel tells me nothing but what I want to hear. My problem: I can't be mad all the time. I won't be taking on the rich or the powerful. They will get no piece of what's left of my life. I try to make the small things better than I found them, help the ones I care about. The world will be saved when it's rid of us, finally. Sooner the better. Latasha makes her bed in a cove, where a pair of open doors open to the street. Makes herself small to the traffickers of dawn and day. Let's fuck, they say. Let's fight. Let's try to be rich. Even in sleep, she shows the way of all flesh and feck. The house we are born to, the life we are promised, even carried a while by those who have known us, all will go missing. An unsheltered woman dreams in a doorway, and the clouds of her breath recall to me the procession of ghosts we are all becoming. A thread I am grasping to prolong its unraveling. Here. Here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Mitch is the first featured poet of the day. The next one is Maria Laba. For so many years, Maria Laba's beautiful barrio of Barelas has been her muse, where all she has to do is step outside to catch the words tumbling down the street, ready to fly into her fingertips. Please welcome Maria Laba.
Shame. It was everywhere that year. It clung to dirty windows, to the heavy air we tried to breathe, like some sort of invisible monster ready to claim the innocent. mostly to young girls, the bad ones, incorrigible ones, who never listened, who forgot to cross their legs, forgot their prayers, whose miniskirts showed too much, who burned their bras, the ones who brought shame, especially to their mothers, who wail like wild banshees. What would the neighbors think? The terrified, shameful girls could only cry. Confusion gathered in corners of their droopy eyes, while mamas made horrendous plans. Priests refused to bless those shameful girls. Send the sinners away, make them pay for their black sins. Suddenly, the shameful girls disappeared for months. No one talked about them. Shame silenced everyone. But I sat in a rocking chair holding the babies of shameful girls who stood in front of a window staring at their babies that shame wouldn't allow them to keep. My heart broke for them. My eyes tried to meet theirs, conveying kind, loving thoughts, trying to dissipate shame from their innocence, calling them my sisters, vowing that someday I would let them hold their babies. Flashing signs. I want my hands to dance gracefully, casting pirouettes on street corners like homegirls whose fading silhouettes still haunt me. Once they stood regally dancing on 5th and Roma, just like laying stake on their men in lockup across the street at BCDC. They lived life in a giant fishbowl under Burke's scrutiny, clicking tongues they never heard. They were lost homegirls, not paper ghosts flapping in the wind like papel picado. I, always mesmerized by stories flying out of fingertips, painted blood red. The last race. It's always my throbbing heart tangled in spider webs of your short, brilliant life, of how your gentle, kind soul carried peace in your strong, powerful hands, used your calm voice to stop chavalos from fighting in barrelas. You were only a kid, 12, maybe 13, an average-sized boy, blessed with a strong spirit who let peace doves grow out of your upturned hands. Brown brothers don't fight each other was your mantra. In elementary school, you refused to let teachers change our names into English. I sit in our family patio, flooded with so many memories, trembling like a hummingbird. My daughter comes carried in by the wind, wrapping her hands around mine. Her strong, tan, lithe body reminds me of you. I notice a bracelet she wears in your honor for the uncle she never met, the one whose life became the ultimate sacrifice. She whispers, I'm running up La Luz today. 56 years ago, you were only 17, a senior at Albuquerque High School. That fall, you won the very first La Luz trail run. She'll carry your memory, your spirit to the top of La Luz. Those hands, dedicated to Ana Maria Castillo. I dreamt you were wiping my steaming forehead with your thick, gnarled hands as I sat in your little kitchen, ablaze with your woman fires. I opened my mouth like a hungry baby bird, my ferocious appetite consuming my mere existence. A girl too young to understand those recurring nightmares, pesadillas of war and death. Your rough, cracked hands felt like cool, peaceful silk against my trembling face. Those same hands you hid under your apron, embarrassed, giggling that you, a woman, had manos de hombre. I only wanted to touch those gentle hands that stoked life in that little kitchen, chopping wood to fuel your wood stove, making the best tortillas dripping with butter. Those calloused hands that rocked vecinos' babies to sleep. How you kept them immaculate, smelling of talcum powder, little angels that slept on your brass bed. Innocent colica ones you held in the crook of your arm with such love and devotion as if they were your own, always grinning, holding a feverish baby close to your golden heart. I opened my silent mouth in the dry wind, howling like a mountain lion, spewing pesadillas buried deep inside me. I was enchanted by your marble green eyes, your powerful healer hands, lost in your stories of life in Mountaineer, your parents buried in the Manzano Mountains, your late courtship finding your Camilo you thought would never come, your eyes filled with tears of happiness and joy when your only daughter Pablita was born, who became my best friend. How you cried when you had to sell your mountain home, migrating to Barelas, finding contentment and peace with your familia and the vecinos that followed you from the Manzano Mountains. I knew that I would eventually heal, that the pesadillas would someday leave me. I had only one wish. I wanted powerful hands like you, Ana Maria, peaceful hands that would hold the dying, calm, unruly, sick children, unconditionally loved children, not of my flesh and blood. Healer hands that would always stoke life, always reminding me of you.
Thank you so much, Maria. And now we move on to another poetry stalwart here in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Damian Flores. Damian Flores hails from nowhere but Old Town Albuquerque, born and raised. He is an award-winning poet and performer, an educator, and host of the radio show, The Spoken Word Hour, on 89.9 KUNM FM. His book, Junkyard Dogs, is available nationwide. Please welcome Damian Flores.
Hi, my name is Damien Flores, and I'm a poet, proud, born and raised here in Albuquerque from the Old Town neighborhood, and we're here at the live, reading at the Children's Museum Theater, where I learned to perform and read when I was a little boy, and so it's really cool to be able to share this, and thanks to the city of Albuquerque, and I still remember that wonderful, amazing, beautiful African storyteller that told us so many cool stories and legends, and it just stuck with me and stuck with my creativity. So thank you all for listening, and I've got a couple of poems to share with you. And this first one is for one of our hometown heroes in memory of Johnny Tapia. Johnny, did you die the way you wanted to? Did you want the mystery to cloud your demise? Everybody guessing as to what finally killed you. It was the pisto, the method, or was it la coca? Maybe the pills the doctors gave you to kill the phantoms, la vida loca. But I know you wanted to die in the ring, a knockout punch to break your neck, proof that the only way for someone to beat you was to kill you. Did you see yourself laid out on the canvas, with the flashbulbs and cameras swarming you like the flies, your teeth pulled in red spit photographed on all those sports magazines, your face plastered on them all? Or did you see yourself in the cajon at 22 years with some vato switchblade or bullet in your throat or your chest? Yeah, I know you wanted to die like a cholo with a homeboy's funeral. A mile of lowriders on way following you to the Campo Santo? Or did you see yourself an old man with your grandkids at your feet, hooked on all your stories of glory and championships? Legends about all the guys you knocked out. And with the little ones, would they want to be you? Would you allow them to dream such dreams? And would you tell them the truth about everything? Johnny, how many of us barrio children pretended to be you during our best schoolyard fist fights? Pretended the playground was Caesar's palace, the crowd of kids, celebrities at ringside. And we knew we'd be famous too, if only we'd never lose, but we would always lose. We knew it back then, and in the end, you lost too, vato. All you proved by beating Danny Romero is that Borqueños love beating the hell out of each other. Yet you were still our hero. And today, we honor you in your city like a santo, praised like a santo with the halo held up by the devil horns. And as we move on, we ask what finally did you win? And we wonder what you could have done if you only had more time. Wonder what you're up to on the other side, because you always kept us wondering, bro. Always wondering. Cool. This is my book, Junkyard Dogs. It was a lifelong dream since I was a little kid to have a book here in the public library, and now I do, and it's awesome. And I want to share one more piece with you, and it's about the neighborhood I grew up in, and the one I dedicate to my family. It is called The Wedding Dance. Diane and Mike married in the spring. our last great family wedding. The American Legion Dance Hall was not prepared for a guest list of 400. Catered by none other than my grandma. Music by Al Hurricane Jr. and their 40-member band. And with an open bar, man, we should have sold tickets. Everyone was there. Every primo, compadre, in-law, vecino, jefito y jefita, tío and tía Nina and Nina Nana and no, and you don't know who's related to who. Because New Mexican family trees are more than trees, they are sprawling forests, thick bosques with branches tangled in scandal and leaves like loose tongues. And my family loves mitote. And tonight, everyone came to laugh and to dance. The last time we all were alive. I was 13 and I hated weddings. Years of forced two-stepping with my aunties swinging me around like I was a mop. They danced across the kitchen floor to the rancheras on the Saturday morning radio. 89.1 KANW, New Mexico music. The anthem of housework. And I blame my mama for all the school dances. I stood wallflower while the vatos and the jocks got all the girls and left me wondering where I went wrong going right. But tonight, this was my chance. This was my dance, and she was my girl. Morenita, red apple manzana smile, her dress snug like the lace glove on the bride's hand. Then a choir of trumpets struck a tune old as the flowers. The old hurricane sang Flor de las Flores. And the old timers took the floor like it was their wedding dance. And I took that girl's hand and showed her, this is all I can do, but it's what I do. I danced like I learned. A firm hand on her hip, our eyes locked. I led her with my stare, spun her like a parasol on my fingertips, dipped her so she arched like a guitar string, bent, slipped back, and held till she nearly broke. And we kissed beneath the shadow of a Spanish song. And then Grandma and Grandpa danced beside us, and slow stride stepping bass line, he leaned in and shouted over the music, "Hey! She's your cousin," and danced off like it was a secret. But everybody heard, fingers young and old, pointed, their laughing grins frozen in the photographer's lens. Gossip jumped the tables as the girl ran off, and Grandpa cracked himself up. "I'm sorry to lie to you like that, but that was going a little too far, a little too quick. But good for you, mijo." And this moment breathes in an old family album found in a tomb of dust. A photograph of generations where the joyful ghosts laugh and dance like they will never die. And as I close the book, an old song comes to mind, and I whisper, all the dead desire most is to live in our memory. All they desire most is to laugh and to dance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Damien and I go back a long way. Once I was invited years ago to speak to a high school, read some poetry for high school students here in Albuquerque, and I invited Damien along because I knew he would wow everybody, and he surely did. So it was great to hear from you again today, Damien. Our final featured poet of the day is Andrea Serrano. Albuquerque native Andrea J. Serrano has been writing and performing poetry since 1994 and is published in Malpais Review, the Mas Tequila Review, Ban This, BSP Anthology of Chicana Literature, as well as La Bloga, Online Floricanto, and Lowriding, Shots, Rides, and Stories from the Chicano Soul. She has performed at numerous venues, including the Nuyorican Poets Cafe in New York City, Galeria de la Raza in San Francisco, and the Tucson Festival of Books in 2013. Andrea is the youngest of 6 daughters and credits her family, her ties to land, language, and culture, and the experience of growing up Chicana in Albuquerque with influencing her writing. Andrea is also the executive director of OLE, leading the organization's political and electoral organizing work. Please welcome my friend and the amazing poet, Andrea Serrano.
This poem is called Absorb. For El Paso. I stood, naked, my thick hair tightly knotted on top of my head, each root pulsing, screaming for relief. Eyes lined with thick black liquid, lips a deep crimson, and any inch of my skin that is exposed to air, brown. Darker and darker with every interaction with an unrelenting high desert sun. I stood, naked, fat, brown that fades when the sun is farther away and autumn cools the high desert. Skin that turns red during dry winter chill, cracks like dry earth in spring, when the clouds are stingy and refuse to share a single drop of rain. My color changes with the seasons. I stood, naked, face, shoulders, legs, arms, hands, brown, dark, sharp contrast against the rest of me, lonjas and nalgas and panza soft and the color of coffee with too much cream. One of my bruja hermanas reminds me, panza is the way our DNA shifted, storing fat in our bellies to fight back against the colonizers who came and starved us. Panzas are the prayers our ancestors used to protect us from extinction. I stood, naked, brown. It seems like your skin just absorbs the sun, he said. He's right. His doesn't. My people look all kinds of ways. Some are lighter than me year-round. Their skin doesn't follow the path of the sun and the seasons. Some are dark, always dark. They hold the sun in their skin on the coldest of days, warming themselves and all of us in between. We are a spectrum of brown, as distinguishable as wildflowers. I stood, naked, fat, brown. The blood of my ancestors is complex, and it's being spilled onto concrete and asphalt, trying to find its way to the earth, trying to be absorbed instead, being erased by a power washer. We are targets, and we have no idea when the next attack will strike. We are targets in a war that has been waged against us, the people who carry the sun in our blood. My panza will not protect me from the penetration of bullets. The ancestors were not ready for bullets. I stand naked, brown, absorbing the sun, arms outstretched, beautiful, a target, standing in the light. Rio Grande Boulevard. A yucca plant is all that remains, planted at the feet of the Guadalupana painted on a crumbling adobe wall on Rio Grande Boulevard. Thousands of cars pass her by each day, but no one ever stops to pray or pay homage or even just say hello. The wall shared a parking lot with Ned's Lounge, where $2 Tuesdays meant cheap vodka tonics and even cheaper tacos. The Virgencita on the wall faced the door. I never thought to stop and ask her, hey, what's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? Never mind what I was doing there. I didn't think much of it when Ned's closed its doors. No regrets that I didn't get to have that one last drink. Those days have long passed me by. The comfort of home is where I spend most Tuesdays. A friend said Ned's was going to be knocked down along with a few other buildings to make way for condos and offices and a way of life not meant for me. I didn't believe her until the other day when the first building was reduced to a pile of rubble. I was gripped with fear and sadness when I saw it, but thankful when I saw the wall was still up. Gave thanks for one more day until I drove by and she was gone. Workmen with purple-brown skin and hard hats threw bricks in a garbage bin. I imagine the one who knocked her wall down closed his eyes and prayed before his bulldozer made contact with her image. Fake adobe buildings will soon be built on top of sacred neighborhood space, like cathedrals on the tops of temples in Tenochtitlan and mission churches on the tops of kivas throughout the pueblos. We continue to just drive on by. Of dirt. Nuevo Mexicanas are of dirt. Holy dirt that is scooped with faith from El Santuario, where the dirt is sacred and thick. collected in old baby food jars placed on our windowsills for protection, on our altars for as an offering, and poured out into our gardens for abundance. Nuevo Mexicanas are not packaged beautiful, not bottled beautiful, not magazine beautiful, but we're thick hair braided into ropes. We're sharp eyes that see beyond the reality that's in front of us. We are loud laughter and broad smiles. We are movement of confident hips and voices that can lull babies to sleep. We can cut our lovers with one swift word, or the suck of tongue against teeth. We are la sequía madre, cutting through barrios and burque. We are toallas dried on our mama's clotheslines. We are finely ground into atole. Somos como el chile verde. We are la llorona, la guadalupana, la muerte. We flow rivers between our strong brown thighs, thighs that rub against each other and gather in the center of our being. Thighs that open to welcome lovers and close tight once they arrive. Nuevo Mexicanas are aloe vera for skin that is turned purple by the unforgiving desert sun. We are prayers murmured on lips. Santa María, Madre de Dios, ruega Señora por nosotros, pecadores. We are gritos shouted when mariachis play. We are gritos shouted when we make love. We are gritos loud and piercing and free.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Every one of these featured poets, you can see why I chose them for this grand finale. Everyone is superb. And now we are going to hear from the library paraprofessional here at the main library, and that is someone who can do every single job there is here, and her name is Sarah Armstrong. Please welcome Sarah.
Hello, my name is Sarah Armstrong, and I work in youth services for the Main and Genealogy Library in downtown Albuquerque. If you haven't visited the main library, we're located at 501 Copper Northwest, right in between 5th and 6th Street. This building is actually considered New Main, as the original main library is now the Special Collections branch. Back in 1970, Library Director Alan Clark and other officials decided that a new main was needed to support additional branches that were being added to our growing system. In April 1970, a bond issued for $3,750,000 funded the construction for property acquired through the Urban Renewal Program, resulting in what we now know as Main and Genealogy Library. The architecture firm, Stevens, Mallory, Pearl, and Campbell, was selected for the project with George Pearl as the lead architect. The design aimed to strive for the most flexible public library in the country, with intentional planning around the function of public spaces, both in and outside of the library. Based upon this vision, Main Library was constructed with over 100,000 square feet and 3 stories dedicated to public service for our community. Main Library is also the administrative and clerical headquarters of our 18 branches and growing system. Over 45 years later, the design has indeed been successful and functional as a public library, and as of 2020, Main and Genealogy Public Library has the honor of being designated as a landmark for the city of Albuquerque. In addition to the unique architecture style, Main Library also houses a variety of sculptures, paintings, and other pieces of artwork. From metal sculptures such as Cone 10, created by Tom Waldron, and metal pages created by William Villier, to the paper artwork of Stephanie Lerma, and mixed media artwork like Don Quixote suitcase, created by Jay Pearson. Our own library staff has even been known to create artwork themselves. The Main and Genealogy Library, above all, is a place for and a part of our community. We serve about 20,000 visitors each month, and we're here to help you, from discovering connections to your family and each other through genealogy, offering instruction and help with computers and technology, to sharing story times, free movies, crafts, and STEM programs for children. And with the involvement of our community through teen volunteers, the Friends for the Public Library, and the genealogical societies of both Albuquerque and New Mexico, Main and Genealogy Library aims to be welcoming and inclusive to all. Our branch hours are Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So stop by to visit and see what the library can offer you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's wonderful to learn about the main library, the Main and Genealogy Library here in downtown Albuquerque. And now we're going to go indoors with the community poets for the main library. And now we're indoors with all of the wonderful main library community poets. And we have such a lineup today. You'll be so happy you stayed tuned for this one. The first community poet is Desiree Woodland. Desiree Woodland is a retired Albuquerque Public Schools and Rio Rancho educator, author of a memoir about her son's suicide called I Still Believe. Her poetry has been published in Grief Digest and Memoir Magazine, and her prose has been published in the Oasis and Southwest Writers Anthologies. Please welcome Desiree Woodland.
Thank you, Mary. I'm so blessed to be able to be here today. Poetry has been always such a way for me to soothe my heart after my son's death. And I facilitate a survivors of suicide moms group, and we use poetry as healing. And we found that the right poem at the right time can really bring clarity and healing to our hearts. So I'd like to read two short poems. The first one, Elusive Time. The dusky setting sun pierces my heart with sorrow. A melancholy ache rises as day fades to night. The sun's glittering shards stretch forth their fingers, but cannot hold on to the last remnants of light. A hint of blue ribbon still touches the horizon, powerless against the encroaching darkness. From what depths does such sadness arise? Perhaps in the cycle of time, ancient as Hyperion's chariot, he pushes swiftly forward, but just out of reach. In vain, he tries to capture the dawn. Hasn't he learned that time waits for no one? And then Grief on the Edge, based on a Mary Oliver poem called Heavy. I once believed that grief could not touch me. Death was foreign and far off, its heaviness for the future. Like a fool, I closed my ears to the sound of branches scratching against my window. I ignored its presence and brushed it away like a speck of dust in the blazing sun. Life was light and easy to be born, like children's laughter. Don't speak to me of grief that weighs heavy like boots, bricks, or mourning. Even as grief lives on the edge of life, I pretended not to know until it crashed through my window and left shards of brokenness on the floor. Now I am learning to endure this new life, balance it, carry and embrace it. Today, I look out my window and lean into a familiar sound, children's laughter. It's faint and just a hint away from sorrow, but I am listening. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Desiree. I think, especially at the time of this taping, we are just following the massacre in Texas at the school. And I do believe that poetry is probably the best medicine for our spirits, that and the love of community. It's just a way that we can connect in a really profound way. So thank you for bringing that to us today. And as part of this series, I think it's a very important thing to bring to us. So thank you so much. The next community poet is Martha Hurd. Martha Hurd has read her poetry in workshops at Jules Poetry Playhouse, once at a Penn Writers meeting 30 years ago, over the years to dear friends, and during the pandemic in Michelle Otero's Alone Together Zoom group, where these poems were developed. She has studied and taught Spanish poetry and loves reading poetry in Spanish and English. She's done 2 oral history projects, one in a Spanish village, Salir del Silencio, Voces de College, 1900 to 1938, and Onada Ediciones, 2013, and the other in the Wells Park neighborhood of Albuquerque, where she lives. Please welcome Martha Hurd.
Thank you very much, Mary. The first poem is I wrote after a Sierra Club exploratory excursion to the Vista de Nazin Badlands and Chaco Canyon Outliers in May of 2014. Mudstones. Today I walk where mammals first lived, buried beneath silt. Mudstones holding on to life from before. Who were we? Who are we? Will we destroy our very origin? Self-absorbed, we live for today, An off-road vehicle races down a desert canyon without regard for life, nor the past all around. 18-wheelers zoom on newly paved roads. Big oil, shale, dig deeper, use up precious water. Life is what we do today, how we live every day. Honor those creatures who emerged from the soil into beings who survived. Fossils nestle in mud, a creation story. Mudstones, here in the desert among rare purple cactus flowers, this fragile land, ancient earth, preserving life from other times, for all time. I clench a mudstone in my hand. The next poem I decided I wanted to do today because it's inspired by Federico Garcia Lorca, who was born this day in 1898, and also Leonard Cohen. A dark dove lands on ancient olive tree, gnarled roots press into red earth. In my hands a large fork and spoon of olive wood, toss wilted lettuce leaves and large black olives in sculpted wooden bowl. I stand on red tiles, cool earth on bare feet. The solitary dove perches on windowsill, stares at me. In nearby fields, olive trees, roots upturned, float toward the sky. Branches reach for the earth, clinging to the life they had before adorning city gardens or warming country houses. A journey they did not want to take, leaving barren fields where doves will go to die. In the last poem I wrote in our workshop in 2020, on the 24th of June, in my Catalan speaking village college, on St. John's Eve. La Noche de San Juan, children run through narrow streets, up, down, and around the hill of a medieval village, college. La Noche de San Juan, they pull strings of tin cans over cobblestones to scare evil spirits. In the center of our plaza, a bonfire burns cast off wooden chairs. The cardboard effigy of San Juan slowly sinks into the flames, reflecting on windows of tall cubist houses in triangular plaza. Old and young press round to feast on coca de San Juan and sweet wine, la nit de San Juan. At the seashore, jubilant crowds dunk into cool water, wash away their sins. They run back, skin tingling, onto the beach dotted with bonfires, toss rosemary over their shoulders. It is the night to find your love. La Noche de San Juan. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. You really put us in a location for each of those poems. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We went from a connection to each other, a connection through our common grief, and then we went a connection to the earth and to our place. So that's very good. This is how the community poets happen. It's just like, you know, we just touch everywhere and all the different voices. Our next community poet is Shawna Morris. Shawna Morris has been reading and writing poetry since childhood and got a job in a library so she could be near more books. Can't we identify with that? Shawna won a paper-free short fiction contest and twice received an honorable mention in an annual poetry contest, all in Albuquerque's former free alternative newspaper, The Weekly Alibi. Please welcome Shawna Morris.
Hey, thanks for having me. My poem is called Be My Book. Be my book, dedicate yourself to me. I want to be the one to dog-ear your pages. I want to read between the lines and underline my favorite passages. I want to be the first to read your textual notes. I want to slide a bookmark gently between your pages to mark the spot where I left off. I want to wear you out until you fall open at the best parts. Let's tangle in sheets of words. Let's read each other. Be my book. Thank you for listening, because that's the first time I've ever read a poem out loud.
That's marvelous. That's one of the things that Poets in the Library series does, is we get people to come forward with their poetry, and it's so good. It's so good because I hope that that's not the last time that you read a poem in public, because that was really enjoyable. It was really a fun poem. Thank you so much, Shawna. Our next community poet is Brad Howard. Brad Howard is a graduate of Del Arte International School of Physical Theater with an emphasis in clowning. He has been writing poetry since high school and hasn't done a reading since around that time, meaning this is his first reading in over 20 years. Brad is excited to continue to explore his passion for words and language by participating in this event. And I'm happy this series has reawakened his inner poet. Please welcome Brad Howard.
Thank you, Mary. This poem is entitled Every Day is Laundry Day. I sort colors. I bleach whites. Sometimes you can't get love out of that little black dress. No matter how many times I wash my clothes, daily lately, I still smell you. No matter how many times I shave my legs, I still feel your fingertips. And the only words I had left to describe you were fabric softener. I knew it was time to close my eyes and focus on the spin cycle, slowly rinsing through wadded up socks and pinstripe slacks.
Thank you, Brad. What a great reemergence. Thank you so much. You could have read more. All right, our next community poet is Nick Reyes. Nick Reyes has lived in New Mexico since he was 1 year old. He grew up on the west side and graduated from West Mesa High School. He then took an unconventional path through UNM and CNM and ultimately behind the wheel of a big rig. Like the beat poets before him, he prioritized life experiences. He spent most of his adult life, in his words, driving semi-trucks and traveling as much as possible. While taking less chosen paths, he has written poetry, but this is the first time he is sharing his words with the world. So please welcome Nick Reyes.
Thank you, Mary. I'm honored. The conversation becomes stale, like the smell of clothes soaked in cigarette smoke for days. It's not that I don't know what's being said or that I don't have something I'd like to say. My silence is a choice. I prefer not to say a word. I'd rather the conversation ended, like waiting for those old cigarette smoke-filled clothes to go into the washer, become fresh again. Eventually I get my wish, laughing silently. After all, noise is just noise. It's how you feel and how it makes you feel that really matters. Silence, like a Buddhist monk lighting himself on fire in protest of war, is a powerful action and is as hard and as beautiful as a blood diamond. Fireflies painting the night sky. Oh, where was I? Sitting at home, picturing them fly. Bright gold and yellow passing stars by, then disappearing in the distance. A baby cries. I let out a sigh on rough nights, asking God why. Remembering her open thighs that first night, both a little shy. No longer wanting God's reply. Comforting the baby, smiling eyes. Life can be easy and hard, you can't deny. But all you have to do is try, soar high, like fireflies glowing and disappearing in the night sky. Her soul rested on a wildfire. Pain and restlessness was normal. Crazy, passionate, funny, creative, talented, master of written and spoken word. She bloomed from the street corner sidewalk crack. This colorful, vibrant wildflower growing where most perished. Embracing the sunlight when it peeked through the shadows, just enough to let enough light in. Swirling in the wind, eventually flying away to a happier destination. The image is still there, but the physical presence now far away, and energy always close by. Thank you.
Wow, Nick. There's cowboy poetry now. I think there's going to be truck driver poetry. Wow, that was really impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
For joining us today. I'm so pleased that your debut was here on the Poets in the Library series.
I'm honored, beyond honored.
Thank you so much. Our next community poet is Chelsea Bunn. Chelsea Bunn is the author of Forgiveness from Finishing Line Press in 2019 and a recipient of the Rita Dove Award in Poetry, the Academy of American Poets Catalina Paez and Seamus McManus Prize, and a New Mexico Writers Grant. Her work appears or is forthcoming in Best New Poets, Bellevue Literary Review, Hayden's Ferry Review, the Iowa Review, and elsewhere. Born and raised in New York City, she earned her MFA in poetry and her BA in English at Hunter College, and currently lives and teaches in New Mexico. Please welcome Chelsea Bunn.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for having me as part of this program. It's really nice to be here. I'll read one poem, which is called Because I Like to Watch, and it begins with an epigraph by Andy Warhol, which reads, I never understood why when you died, you didn't just vanish. Everything should just keep going on the way it was, only you just wouldn't be there. I always thought I'd like my own tombstone to be blank. No epitaph and no name. Well, actually, I'd like it to say Figment. Because I like to watch. I tune in every day to the Warhol grave cam to visit the cemetery where Andy is buried. It's been snowing all month in Pittsburgh, and today it's cloudy, the white sky spiked with bare black trees. Through my screen, it's all washed out, the gravestones greenish gray, granite the color of wet seaweed. Someone's left 2 cans of Campbell's tomato soup and a bottle of Coke. I like to watch what's left each week. I like to watch for people too, though no one's ever come. Once a brown dog wandered across the screen. She stopped to sniff a pile of snow. Have you ever wondered what they bring to your grave? Sometimes I can't take being seen. This requires nothing of me. It's bloodless. I don't have to grieve in public if I'm behind a screen and not even grieving a man I knew. I don't have to perform. Sometimes the only reason I come is to hide. I count the cans and Coke bottles and no one asks me why I'm there. He doesn't know I'm watching. He's dead. Have you ever wondered what the dead still know? Every day, no one's there. No one living. No one knows I'm watching, just as no one really knows that once I was a pregnant woman. Here, I choose when I am haunted. I come when I want to come, and every day he's still dead and still here, covered in soft snow. And since I don't see anyone, it's all for me. The icy wind is for me. The soup cans are for me. The flags are waving for me. And everyone's already in their graves. There's nothing I have to do but look. And look, it's snowed again. And someone's left a mini Christmas tree topped with a red bow and another can of soup, and taken care to make sure all 3 are evenly spaced. And now they sit untroubled, wearing little hats made of snow. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Wow, that's interesting. The first poem we've had in this whole series that mentioned Andy Warhol. That's pretty interesting. All right, well, that concludes the main library event in the Poets in the Library series. My name's Mary Oishi. I appreciate so much your listening. There are many other libraries on the city's YouTube channel and on the library's websites. So please avail yourself of all of them. That we have had such a variety of poets in ages, in neighborhoods, in where they are as poets, whether they're slam poets or literary poets or just performance poets, or if they've read for the first time, as we heard today. And it's just so wonderful, the wealth of poets we have here in Albuquerque, as well as the wonderful public library system, which I doubt would get off the ground today if we were just starting such an institution. So I'm really pleased that we're able to showcase both of Albuquerque's treasures. We're more than balloons. We're more than balloons. We have great poets, great libraries, and a great community. Thank you so much.